to come on board and join with us here at Zone and Programs Inc. to start looking toward creating communities that bring children off tech.
Should children ever use technology, things like smartphones or tablets or computers? What about video games? Well, Chris Rowan, who you just saw there, says no. 10 reasons why handheld devices should be banned for children under the age of 12. This is in the Huffington Post parenting section. She goes on to say handheld devices, cell phones, tablets, electronic games have dramatically increased the accessibility and usage of technology, especially by very young children. I'm calling on parents, teachers, and government to ban the use of all handheld devices for children under the age of 12 years. She even comes up with guidelines that say kids aged 6 to 12 should never use a handheld device or play even non-violent video games. Is this really her place? Is this the place of government? Jeff Stier is with the National Center for Public Policy Research, senior fellow there, joins me from New York. Jeff, this to me, it's the addition of the word government that really bothers me in this, because this is yet another extension of the nanny state.
Brian, you're exactly right. And this is a typical tactic of the nanny state activist. What they do is they take legitimate studies and completely distort the findings, on the one hand, to support a ban, a government ban, as you point out. And number two, they completely ignore legitimate scientific studies that support the use of those technology, and then they just call for an outright ban instead of weighing the costs and benefits of risks and benefits of any particular product. It makes no sense, and these types of nanny state government approaches will definitely do more harm than good.
Look, my kids are on spring break right now. Even with the limitations we put on them, they're probably getting an overload of electronics, screen time, however you want to put it, because the weather's been kind of crappy. So they're not going outside. They end up on the devices, but it's up to my wife and I to figure out what's appropriate for each child, what are the limits that we want to place on them, and we do place limits. But that's our job as parents. It's not her job. It's not the government's job.
And you're right. And I think back maybe just 10 years ago when there were activists calling for taxes on video games, just like they're calling for soda taxes, they're calling for video game taxes because of obesity. Well, in those 10 or 15 years, they've come out with products like the Wii Fit, where on a rainy or cold day, your kids can actually play active video games and burn calories and do something healthy. Or maybe they just want to sit and chill for a little while. It's certainly not the government's place, but these types of regulations, bans, taxes, actually do more harm by stifling innovation for products that consumers demand, which may be healthy products. And certainly it ignores the notion of, as you pointed out, individual responsibility, which apparently, if you're part of the nanny state or a blogger for the Huffington Post, there is no such thing, because the government is responsible for raising all of us.
I'm glad that you brought up the Wii, because we did resist getting a video game system for our kids. One, we thought, you're still too young. Given the age that they were at, we thought you're still too young. And two, we said, we don't want you becoming couch potatoes. So the Wii came out, they begged us because they heard you have to move with it. And you're right, we were able to get games. We'd say, all right, it's a rainy day, you can go play tennis with each other. But you can't sit on the couch and do it, you have to be standing. These were the types of house rules that we put in.
Right.
This so-called expert, the nanny folks, really don't believe in any sort of parental guidelines or personal responsibility. I know parents that run the full gamut from 15 minutes a week of computer time per child to unlimited. I think it's up to the parents to figure out what's best.
It is, and from a scientific perspective, you can look at the studies that were cited by this blogger, and you'll notice that the conclusion that she reaches, and we see this over and over again, the conclusions they reach in favor of a ban or a tax or whatever it may be are not actually supported by the scientific studies they state. And then they ignore all the potential benefits of those devices, as we see with the Wii. When we're talking about adults, I'm sure you've seen the controversy over e-cigarettes, and certainly children shouldn't use them. But these are technologies that can improve the lives, protect the health of adults. And the nanny state activists want to throw them all out because they cite very small studies, unsupported by peer-reviewed science, of a risk and then ignore all these potential benefits out there. And this happens across the board. We see it every day. It's just the topic that changes. I'm sure you're familiar with the cheese story.
Oh, the cheese story in Ottawa, yes.
Is that amazing? We saw it here in New York.
Yeah.
It's just another example of nanny state activists ignoring balance, parental control, and saying, we know what's best for you, and if you don't follow our way of doing things, you're in trouble.
All right.
School.
Jeff, thanks for joining us. We'll chat again soon, I hope. Fantastic talking to you now.